Hey guys, you're watching Mia's new pair of glasses. In today's video, we are going to talk about RH negatives versus RH positives and the hidden truths about these different blood groups and why you need to know the truth about this. Now, this is a really difficult topic to get any kind of information on. I've been looking into this for a long time, and I held off on making a video about this because I really wanted to make sure that I got this one right. So we're going to talk about that now. So for those of you that don't know what the RH factor is, people have 4 different types of blood, and it falls under O, A, B, or AB. But in addition to this, there's the person's RH factor, which is either positive or negative. So therefore, you would either have A positive blood or A negative, B positive or B negative, and so on. Now, the RH factor refers to a protein that either is or is not found in your red blood cells. That RH factor is linked to the rhesus monkey. So if you are RH positive, then you have a link to a rhesus monkey gene. If you do not have the protein, then you do not, and you would be RH negative. Now, one of the most important things that I find interesting about RH negative blood that does not contain the rhesus protein is that not only is it not linked to the rhesus monkey, but it is not connected to any other living creature on this earth. So there is no other genetic markers to anything living on this earth. So the question is, then where did we come from? So there are actually 3 different types of life forms, and those are iron-based, copper-based, and gold-based. Now, gold-based I am not going to touch on in this video, so you'll have to stay tuned for a future video. However, RH positives, they are copper-based, but they are more iron. But RH negatives are highly copper-based blood, which is a much stronger conductor than iron. And why is that important? Well, because copper conducts electricity, and we are electric beings. So the more electricity that is conducted through a life form, then the more abilities they're going to have, and the more different they're going to be. I've talked about this in other videos, the importance of consuming copper for those reasons, and about conductivity, so we're going to talk about that right now. So as you can see in this chart, copper is 100% conductive, and people have made comments about iron being conductive, but iron is actually only 17%. So that's pretty much nothing compared to copper. And that's one of the reasons why we are so loaded up with iron by the medical community. I mean, everywhere you go, they're telling you to consume iron, to take iron supplements. In pregnancies, I mean, they just push the iron. So you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, the only logical explanation is because they want to make you less conductive, to dumb you down and disconnect you from your natural abilities that you should have. So now we're going to go on to reproducing between RH negative mothers and RH positive fathers. So this is a really interesting part, because if you are going to try and have a child with an RH positive, the medical community will intervene and give you a RhoGAM shot. The reason they do that is because in the case that the fetus has a blood type that is RH positive, the mother will actually attack the fetus as if it is an alien life form. Now, I'm not saying they're aliens, but what I'm saying is that the fetus will not survive if the mother starts to attack the blood of the Rh positive fetus. So that's what they tell us anyway, is what the RhoGAM shot is for. But whether that's the truth coming from the medical community, we may never know what the real purpose is. The one thing we do know for sure is that the medical community has a vested interest in intervening during pregnancy to help Rh negative mothers conceive children with Rh positive fathers, which is something they weren't always able to do, at least in this period of civilization. And the one thing that you're going to hear me say over and over and over is that you have to question the source of information, because whatever you're hearing from the establishment, you need to go 180 degrees in the other direction, because they are not telling us the truth. They have never told us the truth about anything, and it certainly wouldn't be starting here with Rh negative versus Rh positive blood types and reproduction. Now, a really, really important note I want to mention here, because people have mentioned this in the comment section, and I've had a lot of questions about this and stories from people, is that you cannot produce an Rh negative baby from two Rh positive parents. It is absolutely not possible. And they've made it really difficult these days to know your blood type, or for your parents to know their blood type. So if you are an Rh negative, I would find out, especially if you don't have a lot of pictures from yourself as a child, and you don't resemble your family or your siblings, and you never really felt like you belonged in your family, you might want to find out both your parents' blood type, because if you are a negative and both your parents are positive, there's no way you were conceived from those parents. So let's go back to the medical community's curious effort to help Rh negative mothers and Rh positive fathers create babies that definitely limit the ability to produce an Rh negative baby. So we know that two Rh negatives are going to produce an Rh negative. But my conclusion is that their desire to help people that are negative and positive breed is to weed out Rh negatives. And we will talk further about why that is. This is something that people really need to think about. If you look to nature, you can actually have horses and donkeys, lions and tigers breeding to create offspring. You can have different races breed with no problem. You can have any different kind of human race breed and create an offspring without the necessity for medical intervention. The only case that you have where people cannot breed successfully naturally is between Rh negatives and Rh positives. Now, why people do not ask questions and think that that is odd is beyond me, but we can see that in nature everywhere we look. So that is our cue that there is something that is not right with Rh negatives and Rh positives. Now, are they different? Absolutely they are. Now, the controllers knew about the hazards of trying to conceive between blood types, because that is why they used to require a blood test before you were married. Now, how did they know this before all the medical advances that made it possible to know? Well, they knew from information carried down by past civilizations. And if you want to know what I'm talking about specifically with information being gained and lost and gained and lost through the destruction of civilization that has happened over and over for infinity, you want to check out Brian's series, about what has happened over time and what's going to happen again. And you can find that at Brianaustinlambert33 Channel. And I highly encourage that you watch his series, because a lot of this is going to start to make sense when you have all the information. And then you can start to really put the pieces together. And one of the questions that came up for me when I was looking into this was, what does the ROGAM shot really do? So we know that it makes it possible, yes, for negatives and positives to conceive. However, does it actually lower the chances of an Rh negative being conceived? I don't know the answer to that. If anybody wants to delve into that and try and find out, you're more than welcome to do that, but I have not been able to find an answer on that yet. Now, finally, we're going to talk about possible traits of Rh negatives. So these are some of the things that occur in Rh negative blood: extra ribs, extra vertebrae, lower body temperatures, lower blood pressure. They tend to have a reddish tint to their hair, gray or green eyes, the eyes sensitive to light, sensitive in general, intuitive, and having special abilities. So these are some of the things that make us different. And another thing is not only having lower body temperature, but feeling warmer, skin feeling warmer than Rh positives, but always being cold in colder temperatures because of the inability to keep heat in. So Rh negatives tend to have a harder time retaining heat. And some different physical features, mainly in women, that I have found is that they tend to have longer shins, so a longer foot to shin ratio than positives, broader shoulders, longer fingers, feet and toes. Now, typically, women and men that have shorter legs, shorter shin ratios, that is created for colder climates to be able to retain heat. So Rh negatives that do not have those traits by nature show us that they are created for a warmer climate. Rh negatives physical features are specifically created for warmer climates. So therefore, you can also take that to they're created for specifically the red sky. And if you don't know about the red sky and its characteristics, again, you want to go watch Brian's series, because it's going to make complete sense as far as why Rh negatives are the way they are and where they came from. So now let's talk about the lie that is perpetrated that Rh negatives are evil and that Rh negatives make up the royal families. And you really have to, again, question where the source of this information is coming from and what would be the benefit for them sending out this information. So I believe that they are trying to, and that they have been trying to, turn people against Rh negatives to demonize them. And that is for something that's coming in the future. The truth is that Rh negatives are some of the most gentle, fun-loving, sensitive creatures that exist. I mean, truly mythical in a lot of ways. And do I believe that they originated here? Absolutely not. Rh negatives have a lot of amazing qualities and traits, and if you know any of them personally, then you will know that and see that in them. But they are not evil, and the lie that has been put out from the controllers definitely benefits them. And I just want to remind everybody to be cautious when identifying yourself in the comment section in light of the controllers' desire to weed out Rh negatives. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Everyone stay safe, be good to one another, and as always, God bless.